Welcome, everyone. Jon Taylor is joining today. As usual, he's got great content, and I can't wait to hear what you've got for us today.
Yeah, so this is something that this metaphor we're going to talk about today, it actually hit me in a couple session a couple weeks ago as I watched this couple talk about repair. And as I've become more wont to do when I hear couples throw around terms that I've taken for granted, I stop and I think if I were an alien and I had no idea what was going on,
Mm,
would I understand what they're talking about? Because if the answer is no, they probably don't know what they're actually talking about. So I was watching this couple talk about repair. I was asking him questions, and it came to me that I think our idea about repair, I wouldn't say that it's wrong, like relationship repair, but I don't think it's basic enough. Um,
oh,
and so I see a lot of like if we make repair a conceptual issue, like repair means restoring trust, or repair means stopping acting out. If we make it a conceptual issue, I think the root of the problem, the root of the relationship that doesn't hold safety anyway, never gets addressed. So I'm going to submit to you all today: repair is a structural issue. So think about this. When is the greatest moment of relief after acute stress? Is it when it all goes away, or is it when you know that it's going to be getting better? So bedtime at our house with now only one of our children is like the most stressful part of my day. My 2 year old, that kid could keep himself up, I think, for days and days on end. We let him. So usually going to bed is not something that he wants to do. He has all sorts of stall tactics. Um, I love my little boy. I love being able to put him to bed. I also really love when I know he's out and I can leave his room and I have some time, some non-child focused time in my day. Um, but the moment that I start to feel release and the moment that I actually feel like, okay, this is kind of nice is when he gets quiet and he stops fidgeting around. That's not the moment he's asleep, and it's not the moment I leave the room. Another thing that illustrates this and kind of got me thinking about this a few weeks ago was camping with some of my extended family. We were in a pretty remote, primitive place, no running water, no bathrooms, high up in the mountains, up a canyon. So we come out of the canyon and my phone buzzes and I have a text from my little sister. She said, "We picked up something on the road. Our tire is flat. Here's where we're parked in the last town before we headed up into the mountains." So we go there, and my sister and my brother-in-law have their van completely emptied. He has stripped it down to the metal floor barehanded, looking for this spare tire that actually doesn't exist in their van. And so you can see the stress is high. It was a Sunday at a small town in Utah. That means like there are no tire repair shops or mechanics open. And so there was this big like we don't have a spare tire. What are we going to do? So I said, well, I can go to the gas station here. I'll get a can of Fix a Flat, the foam you put in the tire. I've used that before. Let's see if it can just get us patched. And we had to drive like an hour and a half to find a tire shop that was open. So we try the Fix a Flat. They drive around. It doesn't plug the hole. So then I start looking. Their van and my car were the same brand, and it was a 5 lug nut configuration. The car that I drive was a bit bigger than their minivan, but my spare tire was going to work. So we put the spare tire on. That's when you could see the stress levels really reduce. There was still this like, okay, we're going to have to stop in an hour and a half. We're going to have to sit at the tire store, get things changed. The expense, the time is not fun, but we're going to be fine. Was the feeling that you had. And I think it's a lot the same in our relationships when there's been a rupture, when there's been betrayal. Of course, we need to look in every corner, ask every question, soothe and resolve every fear. But I would submit that when you focus on that, it's like focusing on the load of cargo that has to be moved across the bridge that is damaged beyond use. So I want to talk about this bridge and cargo analogy a bit. I see a lot of couples focus on content, cargo. What do we actually have to talk about? And it makes sense. What do we conceptualize? What do we understand as the problem? It was lying, it was secrecy, it was betrayal, all of that. As a structural relational relationship therapist, um, I can guarantee 100% confidence there were structural issues that predated the actual betrayal. And if those structural issues go unchecked, you can try to move as much cargo as over that bridge as possible, and you're going to risk collapse. And I see couples do this over and over and over again. And what happens when you move the cargo over the bridge and it collapses? Well, now you have cleanup that you have to do on top of the job of repairing the bridge and moving the cargo. So it's important to focus on the structural issues first, the bridge. This is the functional relationship. Infidelity, betrayal, and unchecked trauma will wipe out your bridge every single time. Bad setups, faulty assumptions that we start on, even stuff as seemingly unrelated as the reasons why we're both in this relationship to begin with.
Ooh.
You know, some of the folks that I've worked with over the years that there's not quite the relationship movement that we would expect, even when there's decent or even good like individual work. Um, the lack of progress in the relationship can come down to why we were here. I've worked with several couples over the years where actually neither partner got in because they were wanting an emotional arrangement, meaning we weren't here to share feelings, we weren't here to take care of each other emotionally. One was here to provide, and one was here to provide beauty, companionship, whatever, and no judgment on that relationship type. Um, but sometimes it becomes apparent. I see for a lot of my addicts in recovery, if they are really sinking into recovery, partners too, and they're having that personal transformation, they want the relational emotional connection. And often, if that's not what your relationship started out on, you have a hard sell for something that seems like, oh, well, this would just make sense. Everyone wants this. No, they don't. So you really have to look at like the underpinnings. What are the fundamental parts of our relationship? How do they work? Otherwise, you can keep trying to move cargo across a bridge that it wasn't designed for, and you'll get resistance. Of course, unconscious. But if it doesn't fit with what the bridge is designed to do, the purpose of the bridge, that cargo will never move. So the cargo is what must be processed and understood. Um, that's the lies, the secrecy, the transparency, the concerns. Hey, you acted out in this way. What does this mean for our future? Um, I don't know if I can ever see you the same again. I think I'll always hate you. What kind of future does that give us? Like, there's all sorts of issues to be talked about and worked out. But if you focus on the cargo without focusing on the bridge, again, you will have cleanup and in addition to repair and processing. So these are separate tracks for repair and coordination between the two of them must happen well. Saying that means not always do we shore up the bridge before we do anything else. Sometimes there, like for example, sometimes there are emergency situations where disclosure needs to happen when there is not overall relationship safety and collaboration, like if legal charges are being faced, if children are in harm's way, if there are consequences coming down the pipeline, I'm being extorted, and they are going to tell our family and our children. Um, so it takes careful coordination, and that's where I think good qualified marriage therapy, experienced marriage therapy comes in. Um, let's talk for a bit about how to fix the bridge. Because I would say, in the absence of anything else compelling, or if you don't know what else to do, this is where I'll see couples, they will talk about the betrayal, they will talk details. In the absence of we don't know what else to do, I want to give a new here's what to do if you don't have any other ideas. Focus on fixing the bridge. So, first, how we fix the bridge is we understand and we commit ourselves to, we adhere to secure functioning. Yesterday, I heard one of the clearest definitions from Stan Tatkin about secure functioning that I've heard him say, and I'm going to share it here. He says a secure functioning relationship is where you have two adults who are fully emotionally functional and autonomous in a state of agency. So nobody has a gun to anybody's head. We are here or we leave at will. We don't hold each other hostage. Structuring a relationship by agreement, because agreement is the only thing that works when push comes to shove. We don't structure it by, well, I love you, therefore I'll do the right thing. We don't structure it by, I feel guilty, therefore I'll do the right thing. We structure it by, we've talked this through, we've thought it through, we know what the right thing is, and we are shooting ourselves in the foot if we don't do the right thing by each other, no matter what. So first we fix the bridge, and there's a lot packed in there, right? Very rarely do I have couples come into my office post betrayal where both parties are in a state of full emotional functionality and autonomy. A lot of that is in the wake of betrayal. Some folks, again, they've had some of those issues their whole life. That doesn't mean that that is the cause of betrayal. It doesn't mean this is why the relationship is in the state that it's in. It means if we don't go all the way back and fix these core structures, or shore up or help these core structures, we will not have a future that can support the kind of weight that a relationship post betrayal needs to be able to carry. So nobody can afford to just be avoidant of their emotions. Nobody can afford to rationalize their emotions out of existence. Nobody can be under the impression that their brain doesn't play tricks on them. All of ours does. So there's a whole lot packed into. There's a lot of work for both individuals to be able to present as secure functioning, and to work on establishing secure functioning. Of course, stopping corrosive acting out, lying, hiding, cheating has to happen in order to fix the bridge. There has to be a care for fairness, a commitment, unwavering commitment to fairness, mutual protection, shared power, emphasis on the choices that both of us make to be here. So this is something I used to shy away more from early on with couples, and I've come to recognize just how critical it is. Even when, like from the betrayed partner's perspective, even when you didn't know what was happening, even when you just barely found out, you may not have had a choice then, and that's valid, but you do have choices now. So deciding to continue not knowing what the future is, deciding to continue not knowing what the whole truth is, deciding to leave not knowing what the whole truth is. Those are choices that both of us make. For the addict who has betrayed, deciding, I broke it, I bought it, which is a decision, not a God-given right, not a logical conclusion. It's a decision that you make. I will stay even though this is the roughest, most unwelcoming place I can imagine, because I made it that way. I'm going to do this. So we really have to emphasize the choices that both of us make, that influences how this plays out. What I start to see with couples who, if either one of them feels like a hostage, if either one of them feels like they have to be here against their will, and this goes on either side of the equation, you get acting against the repair of the relationship, because the relationship to that person who has not decided may not be in their self-interest, or they don't know. They haven't decided whether or not they're going to give this relationship a shot at being in their self-interest. And when push comes to shove, we don't act against our self-interest, well, knowingly. We do subconsciously a lot. But something big and glaring like that, if you haven't decided that this path in the relationship could be in your self-interest, you will fight it. You'll make things harder. Things will take longer. We have to restore fairness. That means both of us know everything. That's where disclosure comes in. I'm a believer that disclosure should happen as soon as possible. And I know that that is not definite. But really, there's some nuance there. I find that disclosure is not helpful when an addict is still thinking that hiding, lying, and cheating is the best way to get through life. It's just not helpful. It's not even honest, even if the facts presented are honest. It's not honest because the spirit of disclosure is not being met, meaning, I know I messed up. I know this can't stand. I will not do this anymore. That's the spirit of disclosure. I will only be fair with you. I will only be honest with you. I have not found disclosure extremely helpful for partners who are still in the most acute trauma. So partners, there is some work for you to do early on, not because it's your fault, but because it's your nervous system. I've used the analogy before. Say one of your kids brings home some awful respiratory virus from school. Once it is in your body, it does not do any good to go chase down who made your kid sick. It doesn't do any good to punish your kid for getting sick or making you sick. It's in your body. You have to deal with it. Rest, fluids, medicine, all that kind of stuff. So disclosure is not super helpful when there is that uncut trauma response, which again is really understandable, but there's things that betrayed partners have to learn about regulating themselves, have to be committed to doing, have to be able to enact regardless of whether their partner is playing ball or not, because you're not doing it for your partner, you're doing it for you. You have a lot of really important decisions to make, and we just don't make good decisions from a place of extreme fear and acute trauma. We have to restore or maybe even secure for the first time adult
Mhm.
functionality. And again, that goes for partners and addicts. I have gotten shocked. I mean, I never thought as a kid that I'd be a grown up one day. I just didn't think like that. But when I started realizing that it was inevitable, that I was going to age and progress to getting a job and marriage and a kid, I have been shocked about how much work it is to grow up. It's hard. It doesn't just happen with the passage of time. Again, there's decisions you have to make. There's conflicts you have to hold. There's contradictions you have to navigate. I think one of the biggest things that has grown me up over the years is really thinking about what kind of husband and father do I want to be? Even what kind of professional do I want to be? And I realized for me, masks don't work, pretending doesn't work. It's had to be a change that goes all the way to the core. So just because you have an adult body does not mean that you've been an adult. And that's something for both people to look at. Again, we talked about a little bit earlier, fully emotional, functional, autonomous adults. I think about everybody on the globe has some work to do around that. You've got to be committed to responsibility, maturity, capacity for complexity and contradiction, because those are just facts of life. Commitment, uh, being committed to the right thing, even when it's hard. So, functional adults don't live by the pain avoidance principle. Functional adults live by what is necessary to get me what I want in the future. We aren't entitled. It's not owed to us. We don't think it's just going to fall out of the sky. We work for everything we have. Both parties, this is again part of repairing the bridge, both parties must be stable, sober, and able to handle cravings, contained, able to handle triggers. So this doesn't mean perfect, it means stable. Um, my oldest son, his first mountain bike race is this weekend, and I'm so excited. I've thought ahead. I have it on my calendar. We are going to be able to pre-ride. They open up the racetrack the night before. We're going to be able to pre-ride all of his races together. And one of the things that the head coach said is really helpful. If you run into a technical spot, it might be helpful to run it 2 or 3 times, just so you kind of have a strategy for these spots that could cause trouble. Um, that is what part of that getting stable and sober is. It's not that I'm perfect and I don't run into any trouble. It's that I'm committed to running it through, learning each time, having a better idea of what to do. Here's something again I learned from Stan yesterday. He said once we get the play going, our bodies take over, our subconscious takes over, and we're going to do what we've always done,
Mhm.
unless we predict, plan, and prepare ahead of time. So that goes for couples and that goes for individuals too. You don't just wing it. Part of getting sober is, I call it running the autopsy, going back and looking what went wrong, what was that all about, why did I respond that way. Giving yourself, rehearsing, being prepared with other options. For addicts in recovery, this is I've got phone numbers in my phone. I know the meetings that I can go to. I know what to read. I'm committed to exercise. All stuff to help regulate my nervous system. For partners, it's a lot the same. I know who to call. I know what meetings to go to. I know what helps me. I know what doesn't. I'm committed to and practicing good self care. That's the running the difficult part again and again, so we do it better each time. Um, and the last thing I'll say, I mean, this list could go on and on. I could talk about this for hours. We could probably brainstorm together all the things that need to go into fixing the bridge. So this by no means is exhaustive, but the last thing I'll talk about is having a unified reason and an alliance. What is the most important thing for the two of us to be able to accomplish right now? Now, I will give you a cheat sheet. In the wake of betrayal and discovery or disclosure of secrets, there is only one thing that matters, and that is visceral safety must be experienced by both partners. Again, not entitled, not given, experienced by both partners. Because if there is no visceral safety, we get nothing. We don't learn, we don't process, there is no hope for a peaceful future together. So the unified reason for the alliance immediately after the discovery or disclosure of secrets, problematic behavior, is visceral safety. How do we establish it? How are we both responsible for it? What are we going to do? Quick. Um, so, like I said, this list could go on and on. And if you'll notice this list, there aren't a lot of like specific things to do. Like for example, the disclosure process it's really spelled out steps. We have colleagues who have written fantastic books that walk you through step by step. Here's what to do. To fix the bridge, it's not a checklist. It's a change in self, it's a change in attitude. In other words, you aren't going to start having any kind of relational progress until you address what prevents you from being able to make it to the repair shop. My sister and her family were going to be hosed. They were going to be up the creek if they did not have a way to get to a repair shop. And they were even talking, well, I guess maybe we have to find a place to stay in this little town for a night until a shop opens. And you could just see the dread, right? It's and I'm sure if that's the path that they had to go, if there was no other solution, once they settled on that, okay, this is how it has to be. But once we stay overnight, a shop opens tomorrow, we will be home by Monday night. Like, okay, there's some relief. We may not like this, but once the path opens up for progress to be made, that is when relief starts to come. That is what the repair is, I would say, in its most basic form. Talking doesn't help as much as doing. You have to clear a, you have to clear a practical path to safety and healing. So that's what I've got for today.
Oh, so much good stuff. And you're right about there aren't as many like practical things because I was like visceral safety for both, and I was like you could do a whole topic on that. What does that look like? How do you create that? All of those things. Talking. I agree. People get talked out, and I I can only speak for myself. At some point, my attention span will wane if somebody keeps telling me the same problem over and over and over again. Like I'm going, I got it, like the first sentence, and you telling me 1,000 times about it in the same way doesn't help, but action does. So, I can act, even in, 12 step, we talked about act our way into good thinking and all of that. And I really appreciated when you're talking about, the the predict, plan, prepare. Otherwise, we just revert back. And I know that that is the case. And I think it's why consistency is so important. And like going back to 12 step again, it's like you keep going to 12 step because otherwise, guess what? Our thinking automatically reverts to those old patterns, so, continuing to be engaged in, and doing a different thing. You said, restore fairness. And I wrote, is it restore or is it create? Because I think if there's acting out going on, there wasn't fairness. So just like you said, restore security. It's like I think all of those things are you create because there probably wasn't that part of the bridge was not structurally sound ever, and so those underpinnings that you're talking about, create those, and those are new, and those are going to be, those can be really solid. That's the good, I'm going to use steel. I don't even know what you make a bridge out of, but it's going to be the good materials that are going to hold up, even with lots of cars going and cargo going over and over and over again. Like, you can create, something that is really a solid foundation. So, but the predict, plan, prepare, I just thought, wow, that is so, that is so true. And stuff is going to happen, and our minds do like to have a little plan, like, and when we go, okay, yeah, we've got a plan for that, then we don't create that moment of crisis. If there'd been a spare in the car, it would have been an inconvenience, but they would have had the spare, and then they would have moved on. But it's just a really good topic, and I really, as always, I love it when you're going like, well, what does repair really mean? Like, and I do think we go to the the cargo. Like, I love the visuals. Like, it's such a useful, way to look at all this, is like, have, let's focus on the bridge. But I was also really thinking, wow, when somebody is, when one or the other partners are not able to show up, that, like, then there's even more work to do to be able to start working on that. So, it, as always, have qualified help, because this is complicated stuff. But if you do, healing takes place. One more thing, because I was really curious when you talked about the couples where neither of them wanted any of the emotional, like, is that just they decide that that's what their relationship is going to be and they're okay, but they're coming to you. So I'm kind of curious.
Yeah, I mean, um, I'm just glancing over at these questions here, and I think this kind of
Okay.
goes into the first one, but I'll
Okay.
start talking and then we can read the question.
Okay.
But I think so. So emotional connection and security is not an inherent need, or it's not an inherent pillar of a relationship. Remember, there is no like a relationship is this for everybody. It's whatever two people cook up. A lot of us, when we're younger, dumber, less informed, living life at a faster pace, we didn't sit down with our spouses or our spouses to be and say, what is this relationship going to be about? What's important to us? Or if we did, we haven't done that to the level that we end up doing when there's betrayal and a real need to actually, fix, repair, heal things. Um, so um, some people have constructed a relationship around terms that are actually very clear when you observe it. They're very predictable when you observe it. But when you tell the couple, oh, it looks like you guys aren't interested in the emotional side at all. What? And if you have a pair that is a little more open, a little more mature, and that's true, and you say it to them, they may, oh, yeah, I don't think we did. That's never been
Mm.
something that we've really leaned on. Um, so it happens that recovery changes us, recovery evolves us, and that's I bring up the illustration of that kind of couple because that's a common thing that I see. If we didn't get started on the emotional ooey gooey stuff, generally through recovery, one party might start to want that, or both parties may start to want it, and we have a reset. But generally one party will start to want it and the other may say, I've never been in this for that, still not interested. Because again, the emotional side of things, like being emotionally fluid and fluent, is not inherent in recovery. It's a separate issue. You have to work on it. It doesn't help stabilize recovery when you can't do that, but the sign that somebody is emotionally disconnected or emotionally avoidant is not necessarily a sign that they are in rampant addiction. There's all sorts of attachment, like distancing folks, trauma, neurological stuff, neurodiversity. There's all sorts of reasons why a person may not want emotional closeness. And that really has to be grappled with on the couple level. What are we both in this for, really? And are we interested in providing that for each other? And here's where I think that first question would come in really well.
Okay. Can you share what benefits there are to a betrayed partner in staying in a relationship for years, even if emotional connection is limited? For each individually, kids, other, I am 4 years still choosing to stay. My partner was suicidal and feared for his and the kids' safety. This took 2 to 3 years to stabilize and feel that both he and they would be safe without me if the divorce scenario played out.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, I don't think there are any universal benefits. Meaning this is a highly personal decision. You have to look at what will and won't work for you. And that often is a scary enough step for people. What I say to couples who have to get some truth on the table, either within themselves or between themselves, is knowledge never hurt anybody. I have seen functional relationships where one or both parties are clear about, I am not going to be getting what I want from this relationship. You can still function securely. There's nothing about secure functioning that says we both get everything that we want. That's not necessary. So um, I will say this: anything that is not you is not a strong enough reason to keep a relationship together because you're the one doing the relationship. So I think you really have to do some soul searching there and look at what do I want? Am I okay with an arrangement, or am I okay with something where we share a schedule and the workload of running a household together, and we share these children, but not much for us personally. It's a choice. Um, I think that's all I can say on that one.
Well, and I was looking for it because you talked about um staying, not knowing, what the future brings, leaving, not knowing what the future brings, and this feels like it goes. I was looking for the quote, but this feels like that situation. Like nobody knows what the future is going to bring. Like you don't. There's no guarantees on anything. But yeah, deeply personal and challenging. There's extra circumstances, and when you're talking before the question too, and there are some people that choose, like you mentioned, neurodiversity. Well, in a neurodiverse person, they may not ever be able to just show up that way, and you can still have a great relationship.
Or want
Maybe.
it, or desire it.
Right, right, yeah, yeah, okay, fair, that's very fair. Can you speak to the power dynamic that happens when there is betrayal in a relationship? As my partner has stated, I have baked the unfairness into the relationship.
I love who this question is coming from. I mean, it says anonymous here, but I assume this is a partner who has done some betraying, maybe an act. I love this question because unfair dynamics are not felt by the person who has the power. So
That's
you're
true.
not
Yeah.
you're not going to hear your partner say, "Hey, this is unfair," and you'd be like, "Oh my gosh, you know what it is." Like you
Hmm.
have to investigate. You have to think. So I love who this question is coming from. Um, so some ways that the power dynamic is unfair, or unfairness was one of the things here. So the basis of this is agency is taken away when there are secrets kept. Remember, secure functioning is two emotionally functional adults here by agency, meaning if we're here by agency, we know everything there is to know. One of the things about the disclosure of secrets that is so devastating is this is information. Had I known earlier, I may have made different choices. And because you didn't give me this information, because it was yours to give, not mine to find, it was yours to give. Because you didn't give me this, I couldn't have made different choices. Now think about that. That is devastating. That is devastating. Um, there's I think a lighter end of the spectrum version of this that I had to work on in my own recovery. One aspect was, I was deathly afraid of being rejected by my spouse and others. So I would just decide for them, either decide that it was a
Mm.
no or decide that it was a yes, and pull strings, go behind backs, things like that. I had to confront this. It's not fair. It's not sharing power if I don't give my partner to say no for themselves or to say yes for themselves. So as I committed to that line of fairness, I noticed I stopped putting a lot of effort into preloading the scenario to get what I wanted or avoid what I didn't want. And it was just a straightforward, here's what I want, here's what's happened, what do you think? Um, so the power dynamic can also be unfair. Folks who struggle with addiction are not known for their emotional composure and containment. So you can have this, my binky, my drug of choice, my sedative is my addiction when I'm not acting out. What kind of ball of anxiety, rage, anger, avoidance, whatever am I? And who pays the price for that? Is that really fair? And I would even say like it's not that different from a legitimate condition. Addiction is a legitimate condition, but I'm talking like a medical condition that could really be helped by medication, or some kind of change in health practices. Is it fair for someone who has that condition to not take care of themselves, to not give themselves options, and then have to rely on somebody else to pick up the pieces? I see this a lot with folks that I work with who suffer with bipolar disorder. That's a condition that is notoriously hard to stabilize on for a lot of reasons we won't get into. But one of the tacks that I take with folks with bipolar disorder who are married, who are struggling, is that you have to start thinking about, it's not just you and your world that's affected by these deep depressions and these manic episodes. If you don't want to be medicated or stabilized or work on this, fine. Just don't expect people to be around. You ought to be honest. I'm not interested in taking care of myself. You would be better off elsewhere. So there's all sorts of ways that unfairness dynamic is baked in. I think one of the best ways to get an answer here is to ask your partner, over the years, how have you felt like this is unfair? And you may get some things that are really directly related to addiction and secrets. You may get a lot that's not. And I would say the recovery, the sobriety spirit, the I want to make things right, is I don't care what the source of unfairness is. Again, this is fixing the bridge. If we don't have a relationship that is primarily concerned with fairness, we're both screwed. So why don't you tell me everything? As often as I have this question, I will ask, is there anything else you want me to know about how this has been unfair? And then don't listen defensively. Listen with that ear of, this is valuable information. Fairness is so easy to fix. It really is. It requires that you think about how you would feel if the tables were turned, or how another feels being in the position you put them in. And fairness is one of the things I've said it on this before. We understand it at like 2 years old, viscerally. So it's a powerful principle to be attuned to. Thank you for asking that question. I'm so glad you're thinking about it.
I am too. And I was thinking that one of the promises of a 12 step is self-seeking will slip away, and you said who's affected by this. And I thought everybody. It isn't just the partner isn't just affected by the unfairness. It erodes the relationship. So you're negatively impacted by that. And the person who's holding on to their binky of addiction or whatever, like, I know I'm hanging on to this, you are missing out as well. It's just you don't know it because you got your binky, but you're missing out on everything else. So all of this stuff, like, it's so worth it if we're willing to do the work, because it changes everything for the better. So are there any basic core exercises to be done together to understand and figure out the structural relationship flaws to work on?
I like this question too. Here's a ridiculous core exercise to do on your own, but it's actually really helpful in couples therapy. Watch yourselves on tape.
Oh
Um,
gosh.
I record my couple sessions, and if there's a dynamic that's just not changing, I will catch it on tape live, and then I'll stop the recording and I'll say, we're going to watch this together. A lot of times I'll even do it without sound, and they can just look at how they're treating each other, looking at each other, helping each other. That is very, very helpful for identifying stuff that's generally at the core that erodes the relationship. But don't do that on your own, and don't do that secretly. Secretly record you and your partner. If you have a therapist who uses video playback, that can help a lot. The other place that I go is these secure functioning questions. I won't post this because it's not mine. I got permission to use it in my practice, but I did not get permission to share it. But these are questions about secure functioning. And I send out this I send out this questionnaire to all my couples before they come in, and I try to send it out every couple months as we're working together. And what it gauges is how I adhere to secure functioning principles, and how my partner adheres to secure functioning principles. So there's two parts to every question. For example, the first one is, I currently put our relationship first above all other interests. Never, rarely, sometimes, often, always. My partner puts our relationship first above all other interests. So I give this questionnaire to both parts of the coupleship, and then I compare answers. Sometimes I'll see exactly opposite, and that tells me something. Person who's answered, well, I often or always do this, and my partner never. Sometimes I'll actually see them telling the same story. One partner, we have put our finger on it. Yeah, I'm not the sensitive one. I know it. My partner knows it. I'm fully transparent with my partner. My partner is fully transparent with me. I treat my partner in a manner that they believe is fair, just, sensitive. My partner currently treats me in a manner that I believe is fair, just, sensitive. I currently share equal power and authority with my partner. My partner currently shares equal power and authority with me. I currently repair misunderstandings and injuries quickly. My partner repairs misunderstandings and injuries quickly and effectively to one another's satisfaction. Currently protect my partner in public and private. I have their back. They have my back. Currently an expert on my partner. I know exactly how to handle them in all circumstances. My partner's an expert on me. Focus on win-win solutions and never accept a win-lose without offers to make things right, vice versa. We make joint decisions. I currently make joint decisions with my partner and do not act without fully getting them on board, vice versa. I currently drop what I'm doing if my partner is in distress and immediately tend to them, vice versa. So Stan Tatkin's book Wired for Love is a really great primer on these foundational parts of relationships. You'll see, like, secure functioning principles of fairness, justice, shared power, shared authority, mutual protection. Most couples have some problem at the foundation with at least some of that, because we're all human beings. Nature doesn't care about relationship, it only cares about procreation. So I'm sorry you don't have instincts for relationships. You have to learn it, or see it done. So those are some good ways, some good self-assessments. The whole book, Wired for Love. I actually had one guy who's an individual client of mine. I had him read Wired for Love, not to take to his relationship, because he was saying, like, I just don't think I understand what's supposed to make a relationship work. This is a couple of years ago. He read it and he came back and he said, it's really informative and I'm kind of mortified. He said, I don't think I want relationships. I don't think I'm
Mm.
interested in doing that. Now, over the years, he certainly has not become the poster child of great relationships, but he has these really specific things that he started to look at in light of the relational struggles he's coming in. He's working on himself. He's getting more effective at showing up in relationship space with his partner. So those are some good places to get started, but you have to be willing to turn the light on yourself. It doesn't really work to say, oh, well, we've always struggled because my partner is this, this, and this. That's not part of that, like, functional adult in a relationship. It's me, my part. What have I helped create?
That's great stuff. So, okay. And then the next one is, John, thank you so much for these webinars. You pack so much into every sentence and make complicated ideas so specific and clear. I agree.
Thank you. I work on that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and even the word pictures, like, you and your kiddo on the course, like it really helps. Okay. My partner struggles to consistently initiate 30-minute check-ins and separately 30-minute connection activities weekly, as our therapist has asked him to do, and he says no problem. It's been 6 to 7 weeks without it happening consistently, maybe just 3 times. What could be behind why he is struggling to do this? He often makes up excuses and blames me and my schedule, but doesn't even ask me, which I'd have no problem making time for him, or does it so last minute it sometimes can't make it work.
This is a common missing step in couples therapy that I see. And granted, I've had some couples
Mm.
leave my care because I don't do this, prescriptions from the therapist are not going to get you what buy-in gets you. So if y'all were my couple and you were having this problem, first of all, I would apologize. I'm saying I'm sorry that I prescribed something that you guys did not agree to or cook up yourselves. My bad. Now let's get down to it. Why do we need the check-ins? Why did I come up with that idea? What are we trying to accomplish? And then I'd put it in both of your laps. Okay, so we're trying to establish safety or consistency or to show that there's relational interest or whatever that may be. I don't have to go home with that. Y'all do. What are you going to do about it? And I would work if I saw either just agreement to buzzwords, check in, yeah, sure, great, yep, I can do that. You don't know what that means. We don't know what yes means for you. Like, you really have to slow this down and unpack it because a lot of us have learned how to agree upfront and not check in with our individual agenda. So I think the individual agenda has to be explored here with the partner who's been made responsible. And I would turn this over to not what's the prescription, what do we think would get done, what we need to get done. If you get a couple who by themselves cooks it up, say we know this will work, we're committed to it, we know what we lose if we don't do this. So like sometimes I do 2 hour minimum couple sessions. I don't just do 1 hour anymore. You could probably ask some of the couples who could work with me. It's not uncommon, I think, for them to get frustrated. We spent 2 hours on, and this is an exaggeration, but we've spent 2 hours on our protocol around doing the dishes. Yep, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. There was a couple, they said this to me in session. It's astounding to us that now we've spent 2 sessions on should we go camping with his family or not. But the reason why that was so fruitful is as they got further into it and examined why they wanted what they wanted, what they were willing to do, their whole backstories about their relationships and families were coming out. So yeah, we spent lots and lots of time on it because that's the stuff that impedes secure functioning. It's not an excuse, but it's stuff that has to be dealt with. So that's where I would start. I would wonder if your partner's idea about what would work here might be different than what the therapist is suggesting, and it would be worth exploring. It would be worth seeing. What could you commit to? Do you actually think it's a good idea that you're the one who's responsible to start this? Why or why not? Like every aspect of this has to be done by agreement. Otherwise, people just don't care enough about ideas that are not their own, even when their back's against a wall.
Yeah, then it's just a resentment field because now I'm having to do this, and you know, yeah, I was going 30 minutes at check-in. Yikes! That's just me. That's a complete me. I was like, oh, that's so much. So like honestly, I had a physical like, oh no, I can do 5 minutes at the check-in. The connection points, absolutely, but but even yeah, lots there. Okay, I'm the betrayed, married 15 years, 3 kids. D-Day was 13 years ago. I got into recovery 5 years ago. My husband 4 years ago. However, after 2 years of seeing a CSAT off and on, going to meetings on and off, 2 steps forward, 5 steps back. He had some months of sobriety over the 3 years. We did the formal therapeutic disclosure and impact letter. Then he relapsed. He did not tell me as we agreed, so I asked him to leave. That was over a year and a half ago. He is, as far as I know, in active addiction. I know I need to take the next step to either divorce or he starts to take recovery seriously, as living like this is so painful to me. Whenever I try to speak to him about the next step, he goes into a shame. A wall goes up, and there's no one to talk to. How do I go about this?
These situations are so heartbreaking, so sad. I would imagine with all the effort and time you put in this, the last thing you want to see is something we're this far along, and this is what. So sometimes, under the best of circumstances, under ideal circumstances, we know what our answer is. Partner's answer is because they tell us. And other times we know what the answer is because we see it.
I think it's a lot. I mean, both can be really hard to accept, but I think it's a lot harder to accept the answer that we are seeing versus the one that we're hearing. So some places to go with this, you're talking about next steps. I know it's either divorce or you start taking these seriously. I think um, the only thing that you can do in this situation is decide to continue or not. And for folks in this situation, I think it's important to recognize your decision to not continue is not a ploy, it's not a tactic, it's not a threat. It's a decision. I know there are people on this call right now who were faced with this. Divorce papers were filed, and then hearts changed. That is not a guarantee. In that case that I'm thinking of, I think that things changed because the decision to leave was a serious one. It wasn't theoretical. That's what was going to happen. So I think whatever it is, I would even put a third decision, and you could do all sorts of permutations with this, but another decision is I need to recognize that this is what I'm going to be living with, and this is what a relationship with this person will need to look like if there's going to be a modicum of safety for myself. Sometimes we do trade companionship for other things, and again, those are all just choices that we make. But yeah, I would. How do I go about this? Is I think you're seeing something real consistent from your partner. It's not promising. It's devastating. It's heartbreaking. I would focus less on what's going to happen on that side of the equation, and more on what are the choices in front of me. What do I know I need to choose versus what am I prepared to choose, and make sure that you're getting help with any gap that exists between those.
We did a series on should I stay or should I go? I should have gone and found that. I will put that in there. But and you talked, it's so painful to you, and there's going to be pain. There's if you choose to leave, there's going to be pain. So having the support that you need to take care of you, really encourage that. But I want to go find that. So do you have any good suggestions for safely going deeper emotionally when both partners are finally regulated and being honest? Do you have techniques or frameworks beyond Fanos type sharing?
Yeah, Thanos I love as an early recovery tool, but it's training wheels.
Mhm.
When you're regulated and you're ready to go deeper, there's a couple principles to keep in mind. I won't recommend any specific exercises because I don't know specifics here, but some principles. Remember, your job as a functional couple is to be each other's handler and do well at it. And by handler, I mean the nervous system. So your job is not to shape, to dictate, honey, you ought to be able to do this and this and this. It's I know who you are, I know how you respond to things and you do things. So I know how to approach you. I know how to hold you. I know how to make things safe for you. Remember, there's not visceral safety, you get nothing. So I often find a key to being able to go into the deeper stuff is for couples to be able to track each other accurately. You can tell when your partner's getting activated. Folks, I've seen some folks who are so instinctive about this. That's when they might reach out and put a hand on their partner's arm, or they might move in closer, or they might even recommend, hey, let's take a little break, let's go for a walk, or they might throw in a, hey, I know this is really hard, I love you. So it's all a regulation game. If you want to go deeper and you want to get into some of the harder stuff, watch each other's nervous systems, not listen to each other's words. And when there's that attitude of care, I've got your back, you've got mine, we're all each other has. I find that couples who have that instituted, they take it seriously. It almost doesn't feel like, gosh, that was a big event. We went somewhere deep. It's like we go where we need to go. We know how to keep each other safe doing that because we watch each other. We're not just so Thanos it's an intellectual. It's a structure. Sharing deeper is a heart to heart, right brain to right brain type thing. So you have to be set up to do that.
So I want to go regarding the prescribed. The response was not therapist prescribed. We mutually agreed to it, and he said yes, but he's not doing it. So, uh,
That's when you govern. That's when you govern. Bad actor, buddy. You agreed to this and you're not doing it. What sense am I supposed to make of that? What am I supposed to take away from that? And remember, your intentions count for nothing. Mine don't either. It's our actions. So what I'm left with is you're showing me by your actions that the agreements we make you do not take seriously and you don't think it's important to do that. Not leaving me a lot of options here.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got 2 minutes. I'm the betrayed partner. We are about 5 months into recovery. My addict partner has had very few relationships and typically only a short-term casual relationships with women. When we met, we were very clearly established a strong friendship. And whilst my partner set out for me to be a short-term relationship, he found he wanted to keep the relationship going, committed to each other. So I'm trying to skip it. He's intimacy avoidant anorexic. However, I find I have to remind him what he's learned to be regulate and realize he wants to be in the relationship. I'm telling myself this is early recovery. I want our relationship to work, but I don't know how to best handle this pattern of moving forward. So he's closed off emotionally. So
If it ends up working for both of you in the short term, I'm reminding you that you can do this and you want this. And oh, yeah. And there's a shift. Like, what a great partnership, right? That's how we would know our partner, handle them well. I think also making it clear if you don't see yourself wanting to do that long term or able to do that long term, just say, could you keep investigating why this isn't top of mind for you? And why you don't do this right now. I'm okay to help, but I don't see this being great for me or you long term to have this dynamic. If you want this, you're going to have to find a way in your avoidant anorexic self to send up a flare, let me know, communicate interest. Like you're just as responsible to demonstrate it as I am to coax it out of you. Does that make sense?
yeah, well, and communication, having a plan, like all of those things, and that helps build the bridge too. If I'm talking about these, and not just talk, but talking about things that, well, this is going well. This could use some, some more shoring up. Yeah, and ultimately, it's choosing to stay in a relationship or not. So, okay, we are out of time. Another thing is going to come on. So thanks, John. As always, great conversation, great topic.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Good to see you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.